Clary walks through a busy city street, thinking about starting a new job and feeling uneasy about the crowd staring at her. Cotton thinks about people staring at her and wishes to avoid it by taking a bus or taxi, while walking past a car in a city street. Nick North greets Cotton Kuvian and offers to show her around the office. She stammers in response, clearly surprised. The woman explains the office locations while the Naga nods in agreement, then the Naga blushes, thinking about her first office water cooler chat and potential office romance. Cotton sits on the floor near an office chair, placing her hand on the carpet, while a desk with a cup and bag is visible nearby. Cotton struggles to sit comfortably on her snaketail while trying to work at her computer, questioning her login details and considering ergonomic issues. Clary warns the new girl, who reacts with surprise as she accidentally crushes something, then Clary instructs her to pull the chair back while the girl looks embarrassed. Reacts to a spilled cup while Cotton crouches, apologizing repeatedly, tells her not to worry, saying it was due to a due replacement. Clary explains the workstation setup to Larissa, who nods in agreement, then Clary offers to get Larissa a parking spot and suggests picking up something from the loading bay. Asks Cotton about commuting, Cotton explains she walks due to aisle safety, then suggests carpooling, and Cotton agrees while Nick wraps her in his tail. Marisha lies in Cotton's coils, introducing herself as office tech support while Cotton mentions being glad to meet her. Marisha asks Cotton to crack her back. Cotton pulls Clary's skirt down while Clary begs her to stop, then Nick hears loud noises and cries from behind a door as he stands nearby. Nick opens the door, startled by Cotton crouching on the bed and saying "Oh hi. This is not what." Cotton then raises a hand to calm Nick, who screams and pleads not to scream. The dark-haired girl stretches while Cotton approaches, and Nick runs away in the background. Cotton asks if Nick will be okay and mentions magic. The dark-haired girl explains they are security specialists training the police, and Cotton listens as the girl describes Nick's role in calming the situation. Cotton comments on the complexity of assembling office seating for Nagas, and Clary suggests asking others for help, then Clary reveals she has a last resort trick, prompting Cotton to ask what it is. Reads the assembly manual while Cotton responds, dismissing the caution. Explains the assembly steps as Cotton confirms she has the Allen key and offers to tighten it. Cotton reflects on her first elevator ride and feeling accepted, then Clary talks about working with someone courageous, while Nick delivers a shipment to Tom, who thanks him. 7 years ago, Nick holds Cotton while explaining the demon war and his fight for liberation in a snowy forest near a building with soldiers behind. A demon and a skeletal figure threaten a captive satyr, while stands nearby stating she is a rare silver naga with high magical potential. Cotton thanks Nick for the ride, assuring she wasn't joking about needing a car. He replies he will do, and she says no problem, see you tomorrow morning. She thinks about telling North Senpai their shared past and needing a shower because of dust and office grime making her scales dry. Cotton stands near a table with a vase and fruit, holding a towel while reflecting on the difficulty of finding a proper bath and shower booth in her apartment. She reads a book titled Death Clues while lying on a bed, with a glass of drink and stacked books nearby. Cotton lies on the bed, thinking about human beds and considering asking an arachnid classmate to make a custom blanket for her. Larissa lies on the bed, speaking about sleeping early to avoid a rough morning. The next panel shows her waking up, stretching and groaning. Cotton Kuvian listens while someone behind the glass praises her as an exquisite, wonderful specimen and expresses disbelief at her job application. A man with a mustache talks to a woman with curly hair about a new hire, then she replies about the hire's happiness with the seating and excitement about co-workers. An older man with a mustache asks if Marisha knows old Naga legends, while a person in a suit explains their importance and role in the recent war. The man explains that ancient empires never had rulers of Naga and that the Naga are kingmakers with offspring destined for greatness. A man suggests arranging a marriage between his son and a woman to establish a new empire, while a woman questions the son's qualities and another woman admires his helpfulness nearby. The woman with short black hair introduces the man to Cotton, who reacts nervously while sitting at her desk, insisting she was working and praising her love for spreadsheets. A man shakes Cotton's hand, welcoming her and asking about her seat, while she thanks him and comments on the workplace comfort. Then Clary talks about the chair's comfort and the cost of a chiropractor. Cotton asks about his co-workers, then reassures him about benefits and support for veterans. Nick nervously denies dating anyone, clarifying he's married, while Cotton spins her hair. A man offers to introduce his son, the dark-haired woman declines, and Cotton listens silently beside her. Clary insists Cotton join the VIP event, while Cotton hesitates, saying she doesn't want to be a burden to Nick. Clary insists again, and Cotton reluctantly agrees. Larissa greets Nick, surprised to see him back, while an older man explains he was offering his son as a guide for a new hire. Nick tells Larissa and Cotton they already had weekend plans. The man in sunglasses says he has documents to sign and will resume the chat later, then Cotton responds politely while the woman and man stand nearby. The man with dark hair thanks Cotton for not offending his boss's son and wishes her a nice day. Cotton nervously suggests making real plans for the weekend, asking Nick to guide her through the city. He agrees, mentioning his limited experience but willingness to help. Clary imagines romantic date ideas while Cotton thinks about what to wear, then Clary panics, realizing she only has office and school uniforms. Cotton hurries through a door, thinking about shops closing and the train stopping at the shopping district. Later, she walks among a crowd, realizing she lacks fashion knowledge for a date. Cotton examines the fancy clothing store, commenting on its style and hoping to find ideas, while browsing among mannequins and dresses. The girl with short black hair asks the blonde girl if she is lost or needs help, warning her about the displays. The blonde girl apologizes and explains she has a date soon and wants to look nice but not too fancy. The woman with short black hair speaks about limited selection for the kid and a tailor appointment, while another character notes her eyes are scary. Cotton holds a dress while Clary critiques its elaborateness and fit, and Nick stands with his back turned, listening to their conversation. The friend asks Cotton about the dress fit. Cotton complains about looseness and slipping straps, then comments on the pink dress being cute but childish, and the friend suggests it's the last option. The friend tells Cotton that the evening is almost over and she should choose her dress. Cotton insists she doesn't want to seem childish. Cotton argues her dress is fine and suggests leaving comfort behind. Then Clary says she wears whites and grays to avoid standing out but plans to stand out tonight. Nick comments that Cotton puts too much pressure on herself to make an impression with her clothes. The girl with short black hair tells the snake woman to come again with an actual dress in mind, while the snake woman responds about her sales commission. Meanwhile, three men watch the snake woman walk away, discussing her appearance and company. Cotton stands between two men who try to persuade her to stay with them, while she hesitates and mentions having a train to catch. Cotton approaches two frightened men, speaking about her taste and form. The men react with shock and start running away while she warns them to watch out. Cotton adjusts her dress in front of a mirror, commenting on the detachable shoulder straps and hoping the top will hold well. Cotton looks out the window, thinking about the beautiful day and her scales luster while preparing to see Nick's reaction. Cotton hears the doorbell and wonders who it could be, then Clary greets Marisha at the door, surprised to see her and commenting on her hairstyle. Cotton enters the room as talks about the Grassley Knoll Truthers podcast, and laughs, calling Cotton a conspiracy nut. Agrees enthusiastically. Then holds up two lighters and declares they will vasify the corpse of John F. Kennedy. The girl stands in a hallway, explaining she didn't wear makeup or call first, apologizing for falling asleep listening to an audiobook last night. Clary asks Cotton to be gentle while preparing her makeup, explaining the products and mentioning Nick, who Cotton thinks will like it. The blonde elf admires her long lashes and asks about the mascara, while the dark-haired woman explains its magic and offers to teach her makeup skills. The dark-haired woman explains that many veterans are treated as heroes by society. The half-serpent woman questions if he was homeless. The woman confirms he lived on the streets but saved many lives. The half-serpent woman responds that being homeless does not mean no Bill of Rights. The girl with long light hair talks about being excited and having friends to do things with, while the dark-haired girl responds confidently, mentioning plans involving Nick. Cotton embraces Clary, expressing gratitude for makeup tips and encouragement, while Clary responds that sharing excitement makes the fun and invites Cotton to join the conversation. Cotton stands on a city street, looking up with her hair flowing behind her, while two figures walk away in the background. Nick waves and compliments Cotton on her dress, who responds happily, mentioning the adventure of getting it, while he notes her unusual casual look without her snake half visible. He asks if she changed her hair, and she replies that Marisha helped her with makeup. Then, Nick compliments Marisha's work, and she thanks him. He offers to introduce her to an old friend at the park. The woman asks if she works in park maintenance. The man corrects her, saying she works for an ice cream truck and is a big hugger. Then the woman questions how he knows her. The woman asks what makes him sure they have a lot in common, mentioning she is like a vampire but not necessarily a friend. He explains they both have similar pasts and stand out from the crowd, adding she is not a naga. A large dragon stands near an ice cream truck while people look up at it in awe. Cotton talks about the dragon's size and color, comparing it to a blue raspberry popsicle. She recommends greeting the dragon with a lick, describing its taste as friendly. The dragon spots Nick and Clary, then embraces them both while Nick pats the dragon's head and Clary squeezes its arm. Nick introduces Cotton to a dragon and a girl with horns, who talks about selling ice cream and fire breathing, while Cotton listens quietly. Nick introduces Cotton to a dragon-like creature who flirts and asks Cotton about her poison, while Cotton responds with a question about being a secret neurotoxin. A dragon asks about favorite ice cream flavor, then a girl in a dragon cream uniform offers to make a coconut soft serve despite being out of stock. The girl with short black hair listens while the Naga woman mentions rumors about the old district. The dragon talks about cults and demon sightings, and the man comments on demons in wilderness. Cotton says she wouldn't dismiss rumors of demons easily, explaining they can conduct covert operations if needed. Clary questions why demons would be in the city. Cotton suggests they are searching for something, explaining scattered sightings of individual demons. The dragon reassures Nick about safety under his wing, while the woman with pointed ears asks about bug-type demons. Cotton asks about bug-type demons, mentioning the war, while Nick reassures and offers help, with Clary urging him to squash the demons and a dragon-like figure standing behind them. Cotton thanks Nick for introducing her to a London Pira, praises dragon's eloquence, while he responds that history shouldn't lie, calling historians good folk. Larissa speaks about the war bringing new kinds of friends, while Nick hands over a subway ticket and comments on less friction between people and demi-humans. Cotton asks where they are going. Nick replies they are heading to the subway to explore the city, explaining the nearby platforms and their destinations. Nick explains the abandoned building's advantages for laying low, mentioning police patrols and homeless allies, while Clary questions the situation, suspecting a prank. A man explains the importance of scouting parking garages to a woman who listens while holding a phone, asking about vectors and assault locations. Cotton speaks about a radio tower on the city's outskirts and wonders how to steer her handsome prince to a fun and romantic spot. He explains the advantages of using the radio tower as a vantage point for a sniper, mentioning the protection offered by the metal frame and the benefit for Naga climbers. Nick asks Cotton if she is okay and suggests taking a break. She replies that she is fine but overwhelmed by the new information and asks if they could have some rest for now. Cotton mentions the Ferris wheel for an aerial view, while Nick considers its permanence and reliability as a long-term option. Larissa holds up a leaflet and suggests scouting a fair at the pier, mentioning she gathered some intel at the subway station and hints at possible tactical fun. Larissa runs ahead excitedly, calling to Pier, who warns her they are going the wrong way, while she realizes her mistake. He laughs and recalls his little sister rushing headlong into getting lost, while she responds that she is still in touch with some family. Nick talks on the phone about being separated and found by law enforcement, while showing a photo of a girl starting as a barista. The girl with short black hair invites someone to join her at the pool and help apply sunscreen. She then winks and makes a peace sign. Later, she says she had a shower and will see them at lunch. Cotton looks at her phone, thinking about a complex, while Nick responds confidently about someone's energetic nature and pride in her. Cotton and Nick talk about Cotton's mother, with Cotton expressing regret and Nick commenting on her enthusiasm and spirit. Cotton thinks about Nick's biased view of his sister and decides not to mention anything that could spoil his perfect image of her. Cotton stands near a tree, explaining the seating issues for Nagas at confined sites and mentioning concerns about collisions turning into meat missiles. Nick considers transportation options and mentions that Nagas are not allowed on the bus, so taking the tram to the pier would be a longer route. He mentions that Marisha gives her rides to work in the morning, calling it convenient. She replies that Marisha is kind and that riding in a car causes fewer stairs than walking. Cotton leans on a subway pole, asking if it's okay to occupy a handicap spot, while Nick explains a law allowing unusual use of accessibility spots in mass transit. Cotton and Nick step off a vehicle, discussing their excitement about visiting an amusement park for the first time since the war. They look up at a large Ferris wheel while commenting on its size and suitability for scouting the area, as a carousel is visible nearby. He notes the crowd includes yokai and other spirit world inhabitants, calling the fair a popular spot, while she comments on the variety of people enjoying the event freely. Clary says the sounds and rides make her feel warm and fuzzy inside. Then a man at a ticket booth asks for 2 adult tickets, and Nick comments on the Ferris wheel's scariness while Cotton responds. Nick suggests grabbing some grub at a popular stall, and Cotton agrees, mentioning the delicious smells making her mouth water. Cotton watches Nick eat, commenting on how cute he is even doing mundane things, while Nick blows on his food. A woman in a frilly outfit talks about her simple cooking habits, while another off-screen person agrees, mentioning MREs and canned goods as their main food. The girl with long light hair suggests trying a ride, and the dark-haired boy agrees, mentioning some limitations but promising safe options. She then asks if he thinks she can ride it. A young man nervously suggests asking the info desk first to avoid waiting in line, then approaches a female clerk to ask if Nagas are allowed to ride the carousel. Cotton introduces herself as a Naga, explaining her similarity to Lamia, while the man compliments her shimmering scales and asks about her weight. Cotton explains carousel weight limits and jumper restrictions to Clary, who listens attentively in a ticket booth filled with screens and posters. Then Clary thanks her excitedly outside near the carousel. Cotton reassures her to ask if any issues arise, while people enjoy the fair in the background. Larissa laughs loudly while Cotton rides a carousel horse, saying goodbye to Nick and promising to bring doubloons as a souvenir. Cotton raises her arms while Nick, wearing a hoodie, notices her and thinks about the immense magical potential from the snake tail. Then he decides to report the news immediately. Nick North smiles and says he's glad someone is having fun, though they look like a sea serpent strangling a mermaid, then admits it's never too late to enjoy. Nick notices a man in a hoodie with 666 on it and thinks something is off, while Clary invites someone to join her next time. A man in a hooded sweatshirt speaks about capturing a girl and using goblins and humans to guard the gateway, planning to watch her next. Cotton suggests rides and games at the arcade alley, then Clary asks Nick why he looks like a foxhound tracking a trail, and he replies he thought he saw someone familiar. Cotton asks if they should leave due to trouble. Nick replies it's just a case of mistaken identity and insists they stay, then a clenched fist appears as he says he'll handle any problems. Nick comments on the busy crowd reminding him of Tokyo, while Clary warns him to avoid stepping on her tail in the crowd. The fox girl suggests dart throwing to Nick, who replies it's a great chance despite the balloons looking sturdy. The man explains the rules of the balloon popping game to the boy, who nervously agrees, while the girl expresses excitement about the challenge. Nick pulls the slingshot tightly while Cotton presses against his ribs. The slingshot hits the target, breaking it. Cotton cheers, and Nick tells her not to get excited yet. Cotton congratulates Nick on his shot, praising his skill, while Nick responds with surprise at the tricky shot and Clary cheers excitedly nearby. Nick talks to a group while walking, then and Cotton discuss their excitement and nervousness about the Ferris wheel, looking at it from a distance. Clary thanks someone for donating a gaming console to the children's hospital and holds a bunny plush. Larissa notices a long line of people ahead. She comments on its length, and a girl nearby suggests it must be a popular attraction. He thinks about betting on getting Cotton out of the mess and figuring out who has been trailing them and why. He considers Cotton sloppy and possibly dangerous. He notes someone is fixated on Cotton and dislikes it, mentioning Cotton is not a usual stalker and is still a Naga despite being a civilian printer jockey. Larissa greets Nick and Cotton, mentioning she grew up around werewolves and explains the local term for them while leaning on the railing. Larissa talks about joining the job program and the fairgrounds hiring non-humans, explaining the need to test how she fits with the group. Clary asks if she can fit in there, mentioning a bigger Lamia squeeze and a bit of Vaseline. Cotton sits inside the elevator, apologizing for taking up space, while the other woman reassures her about the creaking sides caused by rain. Nick steps carefully onto Cotton's coiled tail and says he will try to slip in. Then he fits snugly against her like a glove. He touches her scales, noting their warm, firm, and silky texture. Cotton giggles and tells him it tickles. Nick apologizes, admitting he momentarily forgot she was part snake. The boy blushes nervously while the elf-like woman smiles and says she hears it's a common dissonance people have. Clary and Nick sit by the window. Clary asks about the height, Nick stammers agreement, then he turns to Cotton and begins to speak about something he noticed at the fairgrounds. Cotton wraps her snake tail tightly around Nick, who struggles to breathe, while she admits feeling too heavy and blames herself for their dire situation. Cotton leans over Nick, who is unconscious and wrapped in her snake tail, while she calls for him to wake up and apologizes. Clary panics, confessing she killed the man who saved her, while Larissa tries to calm her and warns to step out of the gondola. Larissa kneels beside a man lying on the floor, checking his condition and commenting on his carotid artery. Then she lifts him effortlessly. She carries him toward a bench, saying she'll stay nearby if needed. Larissa holds Nick, who appears faint, while she instructs to watch over him and give him a drink. Cotton apologizes for the inconvenience and explains Nick's condition. Larissa speaks to Cotton Kuvion, offering help, while Cotton responds politely. Nick, North and Clary walk together in the background. A hooded man comments on a failed ride and plans to use a mind control spell on a woman, expressing interest in a future fight with her. Cotton thinks about doing more for Nick, promising to get him water when he wakes and hoping to earn his forgiveness. Cotton approaches a vending machine, searching for water, while a man stands nearby. Suddenly, she touches her head, reacting to a sharp, searing sensation inside her mind. Cotton struggles against the demon's grip, warning he's no match for her, while he mocks Nick and chases Cotton as she calls for help. Cotton struggles as a hand grabs her tail. She protests, then the man pulls her back forcefully, causing her to crash to the ground. Cotton lies on the ground, groaning softly. A hooded man taunts her, threatening to drag her to the sacrificial chamber. She strikes him with her tail, yelling at him to shut up. Nick grabs his face, mocking Cotton's teeth, while she threatens to give him teeth back, then suddenly bites his leg as he reacts in surprise. Nick walks quickly through the crowded street, warning Cotton to watch her tail or she'll trip someone, while Clary apologizes for bumping into a passerby. Cotton climbs down the fire escape, planning to find an apartment with a landline phone while considering how to distract the demon before hiding. Cotton stretches her arm through a narrow opening while thinking about her bust helping her squeeze through smaller holes, then she notices her lost hairpin and touches her chest. Cotton leans on a window frame, speaking about people needing to clean windows more often and mentioning a recent snake break-in. Nick touches his ribs, mentioning pain and comparing Cotton's hugs to his ex's. Then he sits outside, thinking about Cotton and worrying she might be alone. A man calls out to the fox girl, asking for her time, and she agrees while standing near a bench. Larissa speaks about a dangerous pursuer while walking through a city street with Nick North and two other men. He says he should have stopped the creep talking at the pier when he saw it. The fox hybrid responds that the trail is fresh and the chase was tailed somehow. Larissa climbs over a railing, responding to a call, while Nick jumps over a fence below, urging her to go faster and promising to keep up. Larissa speaks about not being a soldier or warrior but a simple engineer, then questions if someone ran after a demon with only guts and good intentions. Larissa notices a man from the carnival and comments on seeing a demon for the first time since she was young. The man mocks her, asking if she lost her pet snake. She wonders what a demon tastes like and decides to find out today. Nick clenches his fist and says they need to get the hairpin from the demon at any cost. Larissa leans forward, declaring the pin is theirs no matter what. The fox hybrid attacks the horned man while the dark-haired man warns to focus on the eyes to avoid the spell. A horned man with sharp teeth mocks his opponent, declaring the upcoming fight will be pathetic and promising to take his time killing him.